The whole town of Dodge City would later swear they saw sin that summer afternoon, but none of them knew the truth, and the man who started the ugliest rumor wasn't a stranger. The truth began the moment a young woman stepped off the train, and two brothers looked at her with very different eyes. Dust hung thick in the air as the locomotive hissed to a stop under the Kansas sun. Elsie Hart was only 22, her dress too light for the stairs, her hands tied around a single suitcase that held her entire future. She was a mail-order bride, sent west by ink and paper, promised to a man she had never touched. She didn't know a single line of ink could turn into a noose. Caleb Mercer was waiting at the edge of the platform. 49 years old, broad-shouldered, weathered by cattle and silence, he removed his hat when he saw her. He didn't smile much. He did not stare. He simply nodded, as if honoring a promise made long before either of them arrived. And then there was Wade. Wade Mercer leaned against a post near the saloon, boots crossed, eyes sharp. He was younger than Caleb, smoother, louder, and hungry in ways the prairie never forgave. He smiled like a man who always got what he wanted, one way or another. The moment Elsie stepped down, his gaze locked onto her like a claim, not curiosity, possession. That was the first second everything went wrong. Caleb introduced himself quietly, offering his hand with care. Elsie shook it, relieved by his calm, unaware of the way Wade circled closer. Smiling like a man already planning, Wade spoke too fast, too friendly. He offered to carry her bag. He joked about ranch life. He leaned close enough for his voice to lower. "You sure you came for the right brother?" He said it like a tease, but his eyes said something darker. Elsie felt it then. That prickle between her shoulders, that sense of being watched, weighed, judged. She did not know the town yet, but the town already knew her. By sundown, Dodge City was whispering, a young bride, an older groom, a woman alone in a place that devoured weakness. Caleb saw the looks and said nothing. Wade saw the looks and stored them away like tools. As they left the station and headed toward the ranch, Wade walked just a step behind Elsie, close enough to guide, close enough to trap, close enough to believe she might belong to him instead. That night, as the sun burned red over Kansas grass, Wade made a quiet decision. If the town could be turned against his brother, he would turn it. If the girl could be shamed, she would be broken. And if she broke, she would have nowhere to stand except with him. Elsie thought she was stepping into a marriage. She did not know she was stepping into a war between brothers. And in Dodge City, the quiet wars were the ones that drew blood. And when the town finally turned on her, would she see who truly meant to protect her before it was too late? The first week at the Mercer Ranch felt quiet on the surface. Too quiet. Summer lay heavy over the Kansas grass, cicadas buzzing like gossip that never slept. Elsie tried to settle into her new life, learning the rhythms of cattle, water buckets, and long afternoons that stretched forever. Caleb kept his word. He gave her space. Whoa. He spoke when it mattered. He treated her like a woman, not a purchase. Wade watched it all. Every morning he found a reason to be nearby. Elsie started to feel like she couldn't breathe without Wade noticing, fixing a fence that did not need fixing, offering advice no one asked for, smiling just a little too long when Caleb turned away. Elsie noticed the way his eyes followed her. Not friendly, not curious, but measuring. Caleb noticed too. He said nothing. Out here, men handled problems when they had proof. The accident happened just after noon, when the heat pressed down hard and the horses grew restless. Elsie wanted to learn to ride properly, not like a guest, but like someone who belonged. Caleb agreed, walking beside her as she mounted near the windmill by the open pasture. A noise spooked the horse, maybe a shout from the road, maybe laughter drifting from town. The horse jerked. Elsie slipped. She hit the ground hard, pain shooting up her thigh. Caleb was at her side instantly, steady hands, calm voice. He knelt, lifting the edge of her skirt just enough to see where the swelling was already blooming dark beneath her skin. Right then, a laugh drifted in from the road, and Elsie froze. Elsie grabbed his wrist, breath tight. Don't. Someone might see. Caleb hesitated only a second. Out here, you don't gamble with a leg injury. He finished checking the bruise and then helped her stand. Neither of them noticed the rider slow on the road beyond the fence. But that rider noticed everything, and he rode straight back to town. That rider was Wade's hired hand, and he smiled all the way back to town. By nightfall, the story was already changing. A man at the saloon swore he saw something improper. A woman at the church whispered about decency. By morning, Dodge City was buzzing. Wade moved like a savior. He shook his head with false concern. He spoke softly about protecting a young woman's reputation. Then he found Elsie alone near the barn. "People talk," he said gently. "They're cruel when they don't understand. I could help you," he added. "You shouldn't be tied to a scandal this early." His hand hovered a little too close, like her future belonged in his pocket. Elsie felt the trap closing, even if she could not yet name it. Wade was not offering help. He was offering control. And as the town sharpened its judgment, one question hung heavy in the summer air. When the lies finally turned dangerous, would Caleb see what his brother was really planning before Elsie lost everything? By the next morning, Dodge City had decided who Elsie was. No one asked her. No one waited for the truth. A woman passing the general store looked her up and down and turned away. A man outside the saloon laughed and said something she pretended not to hear. Elsie felt it in the air, thick as summer heat. Once a town makes up its mind, it does not rush to change it. Caleb noticed the shift right away. He saw how people stopped meeting his eyes, how conversations went quiet when he entered a room. He did not argue. He believed lies burned out faster when fed no oxygen. Wade believed the opposite. He leaned into the whispers. He nodded with false sympathy. He told people he worried for the girl. He said Caleb did not understand how towns worked. And then he went to Elsie again. This time, his voice dropped lower. "Kind. Careful. People can be cruel," he said. "They don't forgive easy around here. But a woman with a husband, a proper husband, she gets protected." He wasn't trying to save her. He was trying to claim her. Elsie felt her stomach turn. It was not the word. It was the patience behind them. Wade was not rushing. He was waiting for her to feel cornered. That afternoon, Caleb found her sitting on the porch steps, hands folded tight. She did not cry. She did not accuse. She only asked one question. "Did I do something wrong?" Caleb sat beside her. The boards creaked under his weight. "No," he said. "You got hurt, that's all." She believed him. That was the difference Wade did not understand. But trust alone does not stop danger. If you were Caleb, would you swallow your pride and stay quiet? Or would you put your own brother on the ground right then? As evening came on, Wade made his move. He spoke to the right people. He made sure the right doors closed. He told Elsie there was a way out before things got worse. A short ride, a quiet conversation, just to settle things. Caleb heard about it too late. A look from a ranch hand, a comment that did not sit right. And suddenly the pieces fit together in a way that made his blood run cold, because this was no longer about gossip. It was about control. And as night settled over Dodge City, one thing became clear. Someone was about to cross a line they could not walk back from. And when that line gets crossed, it happens fast, usually in the dark. Before we go on, if you enjoy stories like this, consider subscribing to the channel so you don't miss the ending. And take a moment, pour yourself a cup of tea, settle in, and tell me what time is it right now and where are you listening from? Because what happened next would change everything, and not everyone would walk away standing. Night came slow and thick over Dodge City, the kind of night where voices carried farther than they should, the kind of night where bad ideas felt brave. Elsie stood near the edge of the livery yard, hands clasped tight at her waist. Wade had told her it would be simple, just a short ride, just a talk where no one could hear them wrong. He said it was the only way to calm the town down. She did not like the way the wagon was already hitched. She did not like how ready everything felt. like he had planned the night before she ever agreed to come. She did not like how his smile never quite reached his eyes. Wade stepped closer. "You trust me, don't you?" He said it like an answer, not a question. Before she could speak, a hand closed around her arm. And that was the moment Elsie realized Wade wasn't asking anymore. Not rough, not yet, but firm enough to leave no doubt. That was when Caleb's voice cut through the dark. "Let her go." The yard went still. A horse stamped once. Somewhere, a door creaked shut. Wade turned, surprise flashing across his face before it hardened into something ugly. "You always were slow, brother," he said. "Slow to see what's right in front of you." Caleb stepped forward, shoulders squared, jaw tight. "This ends now," Wade laughed. Too loud, too fast. He shoved Elsie a sauce, just enough to clear space with it, and then Caleb hit him. Not wild, not angry, clean and heavy. The kind of punch that comes from years of holding back. One punch, that's all it took. Wade went down hard, dust and pride mixing under the lantern light. He came up swinging, shouting, grabbing for anything he could reach. Elsie backed away, heart hammering, watching the two men crash into each other like a storm that had been building all summer. This was no longer about gossip. This was about who thought they owned her. Wade lunged again, fury in his eyes. Caleb blocked him, shoved him back, and spoke low enough that only his brother could hear. "You don't touch her. You don't speak for her. And you don't get to hide behind this town anymore." Someone shouted for the sheriff. Someone else yelled to stop it. But the truth had already spilled out. When Wade stumbled toward the wagon, trying to pull himself together, a ranch hand stepped forward, then another. They'd seen how ready everything was. The wagon, the timing, the way Wade grabbed her arm, the plan that was never meant to be kind. The crowd shifted. Whispers changed direction. Caleb moved to Elsie, standing between her and everything else. "I've known Wade all my life," he said quietly. He always wanted what wasn't his. Tonight, he went too far. He did not ask if she was all right. He already knew she was not. The sheriff finally pushed through the little crowd, boots heavy on the dirt, lantern light catching the badge on his chest. He took one look at Wade's face, then at Caleb's hands, and he didn't ask who started it. In Dodge City, trouble always had a smell, and tonight it smelled like Wade. Wade wiped his mouth with the back of his wrist and tried to smile. He lifted his palms like he was the reasonable one. "Sheriff," he said, "you're seeing this wrong. She agreed to come. We were just talking. My brother came charging in, and now everyone wants a villain." A few folks shifted, like they wanted to believe the easiest story. A pretty young woman must have wandered into it. A jealous older man must have snapped. That was the kind of tale towns liked, because it let them stay comfortable. Then Elsie stepped forward, not far, just one step, but it changed the air. Her voice wasn't loud, but it didn't shake. "I didn't agree to anything," she said. "He grabbed my arm. He told me I needed a proper husband, and he meant himself." The liveryman nodded once, slow, like he'd seen that kind of grab before. A ranch hand cleared his throat and said he heard Wade promise it would be quick and quiet and easier if she stopped resisting the town. The sheriff looked at Wade like a man looking at spoiled meat. Wade's smile finally slipped. He glanced around, searching for someone to rescue him, but the crowd had gone careful and still. Caleb didn't add a word. He didn't have to. He simply moved half a step closer to Elsie, close enough to say, without saying it, "You're not alone." And right there, under lantern light and summer dust, Dodge City had a choice to make, and Wade knew it. When morning came, would this town finally see who Wade really was, or would they choose the easier lie one last time? Morning came softer than anyone expected. The sun rose over Dodge City like it had every other day. Steady and indifferent, but something had shifted beneath it. The crowd that gathered near the livery yard did not speak as loud now. Eyes dropped. Whispers thinned. Not everyone believed it right away. A few men still muttered under their breath. Old habits die hard in small towns like this. But then a voice spoke up from near the hitching rail. an older man, someone who had lived here long enough to remember worse days. He said he'd seen Wade hanging around that wagon long before nightfall. And he heard Wade telling her it was just a short ride. The sheriff didn't argue. He only said, "I've heard enough." Wade Mercer stood with dust on his coat and shame he could not brush away. Quiet witnesses had stepped forward. There was no sermon needed. The truth had already done its work. Caleb did not gloat. He did not raise his voice. He stood beside Elsie, close enough that she felt the steadiness of him without being hidden by it. That mattered more than words. Elsie looked around the town that had judged her so quickly. She did not beg for understanding. She did not apologize. She simply stayed standing, and that was the moment the town truly saw her. By noon, the story had changed, not into something kind, but into something honest. A man had crossed a line, a woman had been protected, and silence had finally taken the side it should have taken from the beginning. Caleb and Elsie walked back toward the ranch together, slower than before. Not because they were unsure, but because they did not need to rush anymore. Out on the open land, with cicadas humming and wind rolling through tall grass, Elsie spoke first. She asked if staying would always be this hard. Caleb thought about it, then answered the only way a man like him could. Some days will be harder, some days will be better. But no one gets to decide who you are except you. That stayed with her, and maybe it stayed with the town too. Maybe this story wasn't about scandal at all. Maybe it was about how easy it is to judge, and how hard it is to stand still when everyone else is pointing. Most times, the right thing doesn't feel easy. It just feels necessary. So here's the question to carry with you. If you had been there that summer, when the whispers started, where would you have stood? If this story moved you, take a second to tap the like button. It helps more than you might think. And if you enjoy thoughtful stories from the Old West, consider subscribing to the channel so you do not miss the next one. These stories live best when they are shared, remembered, and talked about. And sometimes they remind us of who we want to be when it is our turn to choose.